Hey guys, welcome to NACE 2014 in the Bodyshop of Tomorrow. Now there's a lot of talk going on right now about aluminum repair and what's changing with the F-150. But quite honestly, aluminum repair really isn't something new. But what is new right now is a lot of bad information being shared about what it takes to really repair aluminum right. So here at the show in the Bodyshop of Tomorrow, we've erected the aluminum repair room, what it's going to take to do it the right way. And I brought Larry Montanez in, who you're used to having around. Larry, thanks.
Hey, what's going on, Kristen?
Not a lot. We got you out of Brooklyn.
Yes, I'm out of Brooklyn. I came over to Detroit, and hopefully we'll get some good things going on right now that's going to happen here. So let's see what happens.
Let's talk a little bit about, when aluminum kicked off here, when Ford made the announcement, we kind of had this, I don't want to say a panic, but the industry kind of went into a what are we going to do phase. And anytime that happens, we get good information and we get a lot of bad information. So walk us through it. I'm
kind of shocked. Everyone says the new aluminum, and it came out with the F-150. No, it hasn't. Aluminum's been around since the 1910s, 1920s. Yes, they were pretty much situated to your Rollses and your Bentleys and your Aston Martins and all those big, gangster cars from back then. But as years went on, you still had the Europeans using a lot of aluminum. And since the mid-2000s, you've had Audi A8s, you've had here and there some aluminum cars, then BMW came out with their front graph on the 5 and 6 series. You also saw that with some of the high-end cars. And then the other German companies and European companies started coming out with more and more aluminum constructed cars. The big problem is here in America, it's the first time the masses are seeing this F-150. And there's a lot of confusion going on right now. A lot of misconceptions. And now, like in a car accident, someone gets into a car accident, all their friends are doctors, lawyers, insurance agents, and body shop experts. And now we have the same thing here, where we have a lot of people claiming to be aluminum repair experts. Everyone's coming out with an aluminum repair tool. And I think there's some misguided information out there.
So let's start with the number one thing is, if I'm going to do aluminum, I've got to have a place in my shop to repair that aluminum and fix it properly. Now, we're in a curtain bay, so an aluminum repair room with a curtain system, but there's also hard-walled systems for containment on aluminum. What's the differences, and what should shops be looking at for that?
The biggest thing right now that shops have to realize, to be aluminum certified by the masses, let's say, by the bigger percentage, is you need dealer support, dealer sponsorship, to get involved in a certification program. Ford has opened it up, as GM has opened it before them with the Z06 and the ZR1. A lot of the companies, the German companies included, or the European companies, because I got to include Jaguar Land Rover, had a curtain system. The Elite 2 program from Mercedes-Benz is requiring now a separate room. There's been cases of explosions because of the aluminum dust that have caused problems, and a lot of the companies are looking towards having a separate room. I've seen some shops that have been approved with like a spray booth, a large spray booth, old spray booth being used as an aluminum repair area because of the dust extraction systems and the dust that can float around. So yes, there are some companies that require a curtain system. There are some companies that require a separate room. Obviously, if you have a separate room, you're probably covered. If you have a curtain system, you may not be covered under certain programs. You have to have a separate area. I don't care if it's a curtain or a room. You can't have a cross-contamination. It's not a recommendation, it's a requirement. And that's where people are getting misinformation on. Somebody out there is trying to save people money by saying, you really don't need this or that. You have to have that separation between the two products. It's dissimilar metals.
Right, it's definitely a safety issue. So I always say, or they tell me that, well, we haven't had a lot of explosions, but for me, one explosion in my shop would be way too many. So I'm gonna have to make sure that I have my safety there. So would it be good for a shop to take a look at their book of business and be thinking about not just what they're repairing now, but what they're going to see maybe 4 or 5 years later down the road, and be tooling up, so to speak, choosing the right rooms for the future, not necessarily just for maybe Ford's requirements right now?
Two of the main shops that I consult for that are on multiple OEM German European programs. When they first started off, you saw 3 or 4 different welders you had to have. A lot of the companies have now, 6, 7, 8 years into their programs, have agreed on one aluminum welder, or they're allowing other welders to get involved because they have been approved by that program. So it's getting a little bit little more cost effective, I guess you would say, for these companies to be involved. Now you throw in the new Ford program, which the requirements are completely different on a lot of this, and you can wind up spending a lot of money on dent pulling equipment, on air extractors that are different, and even welders, MIG welders that are different, aluminum rooms that are required, or aluminum curtains. So the shop really has to look at what's your market area. The shops I deal with are never going to see an F-150 pickup truck, I'll be honest with you. It's going to be a rare occasion. They have been approved already for those programs. They're actually over-equipped for the programs, but they're not going to see it.
Right.
The big problem is that you have the masses now getting involved in this, and they really don't know what path they're going down. Aluminum is impossible to repair if you only understand repairing steel. It's not if you keep your mind open and realize it's just very different. That's basically the only difference. It's just very different. It's not super hard, but you have to learn a different way of doing things, and people are just, unfortunately, not used to change.
Now let's break it down the room a little bit. So once I get that room selected, whether it's a curtain system or it's going to be a contained hard wall system, I've got to start thinking about extraction. And that's another area where we seem to have confusion in the area. Some people saying extraction is super important. Some people saying that an extraction system isn't that necessarily important, specifically with what we're going to be doing for the Ford. What does extraction systems do in aluminum repair, and why are they important to a shop?
If you weld, and I'm a certified welder through ISO. I've held AWS certified welding certifications, because that's what I am. I'm a glorified welder. Air extraction, fume extraction was very important in the welding field, either aluminum or steel, because you don't want to breathe those gases in. I'll be honest with you, wearing that mask underneath there all the time can be very annoying. In the open air, it's not a problem. Most of the time you're not in the open air and you're in an enclosed shop, even more so in one of these curtained areas or a secluded room.
Right.
So you do need extraction. Shops who utilize air sanders with vacuum systems, either through the paper or a separate vacuum system that's involved, realize they have less dust in the shop. The techs are a little bit healthier. There's less particles floating around in the air. That's just working in a regular steel shop. Well, aluminum floats a lot longer than steel does. It stays airborne. It's very lightweight. So you should have an extraction system, not only for what you're welding, but also for what you're sanding in aluminum and steel. And I'll be honest with you, you're probably better off having some sort of air sanders that are hooked up to a vacuum system, so you really keep the area super clean. Who wants to keep sweeping everything up and getting dust everywhere? Right. And there's a few different options for these. Some of them, now once again, depending on what OEM program you're on, Ford has, what I've seen so far, and once again, it's still coming out, seems to be a little bit more of a relaxed system. Well, pick one of these systems. Some companies like Benz or Audi or Porsche have very specific equipment you have to buy. So we do have different products or different vacuum systems that are out there, and you can see there's a big difference between what they look like. We have one particular one over here from Spinese. This is a much larger unit. Obviously would come in handy if you're working on a frame machine such as this, where it goes up and down and you have to do aluminum welding and grinding, and you have this vehicle up in the air, or you're welding underneath. And it does have a pretty cool system here where you can take this and you can move this around any which way form you want, and you can then drag it around if you want to, and it's got a couple of different fan speeds on it. But we have this shorter one from ProSpot, which is another system like some of the other ones that are out there. And you notice this one can do some of this, but it doesn't go as high.
Right.
This one might be better for doing sanding, grinding, some body shop work. That one might be closer or more advantageous to use in the frame repair area when this goes up and down, because if I'm welding something high, you know, I can't get it in the same area. So you might need two of these air extractors versus one. Right. One might be for the body shop area, one might be for the structural repair area. So you'd have to really figure out what you're setting your shop up for and what the OEM requirements are. The OEM requirements are very, very specific on what you can have and what you can't have. So air extractions, after your room or your curtained off area, your next big thing is going to be your air extraction system, since we're going down this list. Another important aspect would be your tooling. And there's a lot of misconceptions about tooling. Basically, I try and teach everybody out there that the tooling should come down to screwdrivers, door panel removal tools, plastic or some sort of steel, fork or something, ratchets, wrenches, Allen keys. can all be used on steel and aluminum. Good practice, wipe them off. Your air sanders, your saws, or your reciprocating saws. I always say Sawzall, it's a company, not a product. Your reciprocating saws, your long file boards, any files, saw blades, cut-off wheels, cut-off tools, any type of tool like that, air, pneumatic, or electric, has to be kept separate. You should not cross-contaminate them. You should not wipe them off. That's just the cheap, easy way out. Some people can't afford to be in the aluminum repair business. I'm sorry, that's just the way it is. Learn your position in life, learn what you can and can't do, and don't, I hate companies that are out there dumbing down the importance of aluminum just to be passe and sell some customers on some of their other stuff.
Right.
There's very specific material as far as certain drill bits, certain sandpapers, and obviously adhesives between companies. For example, we have different adhesives. Audi and Porsche are sister companies because they're somewhat owned by Volkswagen to a certain extent, depending on the percentage, I'm not positive. So they're all part of the Volkswagen Auto Group. Well, they use two very different type adhesives for the repair of their products. Audi uses a lot of aluminum welding, yet Porsche on their aluminum structured vehicles uses no welding, they use glue and rivets. Even though they're sister companies, very different on their repair procedures. Mercedes-Benz, on the other hand, uses a similar glue to adhesive to what Porsche uses, but yet they have on their aluminum a lot of welding to do. So that's another important aspect to look at. What aluminum welders are we going to use? Right. And as you can see out in the area, you see a lot of aluminum welders out there.
Right, it seems like as I'm walking the show floor, it's like everywhere I go, suddenly companies that I didn't know had welders have welders now, and they're all perfect for my aluminum needs. So what are we looking for in a welder?
The first thing is always what the OEM says. Once again, we're going to have two different aspects. We're going to have the American version, which is going to be a little more laxed and laid back on what the requirements are, and then you have the Germans, which are very, very specific, actually to pre-programmed cards, computerized program cards that are in the computer systems, wherein if I have a welder that's required by Mercedes-Benz, and it's also required by Audi, if I don't put it on the right welding program, let's say I have it set on the Mercedes-Benz program, and I try and weld an Audi, it's not going to weld properly. So much so there's different welding wire, and that's another thing a lot of these companies aren't telling you. One is you have to make sure the welder is a pulse inverter welder. You have to ensure the fact that you have the right welding wire. One company might require 5551, another company might require 5556. Another company might require 4043 welding wire. And each welding wire is different. You can't leave it in the machine for a long period of time. It actually rots and goes bad. There's different parameters set up. And I see a lot of these guys buying these aluminum welders. The guy comes in, the sales guy comes in, sets the machine up, shows them how to turn it on, and none of these guys can weld. And they don't understand that there's different settings based on material thickness, type of wire, type of aluminum you're welding, and then even then a plus or minus on your arc length, which is never done in steel. So it's a very different aspect on welding that you really need to practice a lot with the aluminum welding, and you need to have the right machine. So the OEM's going to tell you what you have to have, but one machine that's required by Ford is not approved by Audi, Porsche, Jaguar, and if you are approved, let's say, for the Ford program, doesn't mean you can repair an Audi, Porsche, Jaguar. Just because you're approved for one program doesn't mean you're an aluminum expert in every car. Right. Each company is very, very different on how they repair their vehicles.
Right, there's a lot of changes coming down the pipe, but this is a great place for people to just kind of take a tour around and look at it and see kind of what a setup should look like, what they should be thinking about having in their shop. So I'm kind of thinking that, kind of in summary, that some of the best things I need shops to be thinking about right now is that you do need a room. You need to make sure that that room's going to fit your long-term needs, not just the short-term needs of what we're thinking about right now for Ford. I've got to invest in some secondary tooling. I've got to make sure that I keep that separate as well, and to think safety, extraction, and everything, and make sure that my shop's going to stay safe through this whole process.
Well, you're going to have to ensure that. You need training. There's some training aspects out there. Obviously, I know BMW has a out-of-body panel repair class that they've been running. That's proprietary to BMW approved or certified shops. I have a program for my company that I've been teaching, and we did a little video on it at one point. And I mean, obviously you'll need some of this then pulling equipment inside your shop, and shops have to realize it's not like repairing steel. Right. You're not repairing as much as you think, and it's shocking. Over the 400 panels I've repaired in the last 4 months, practicing it with shops on my hands-on class, it's coming down to the fact of what you think is repairable on steel is not repairable on aluminum, and what you think is unrepairable on steel, funny enough, might actually be repairable on aluminum. It's actually an opposite type of thing, and we're seeing a consistency of body lines or curved areas that are damaged will cause more problems than flat areas on aluminum with larger area dents. And shops just have to learn to practice and keep up with it. It's not like mag welding where I teach you how to mag weld and you get good at it and then you stop for 5-6 months. You can go right back to it within a couple of minutes. With aluminum, you constantly got to practice with it, otherwise you seem to lose that touch. The air temperature has an effect on it, so there's your gun angle causes porosity, the type of settings on the machine. It's a lot of variables that get included in aluminum welding.
Right, there's a lot of little stuff there. So one of the main takeaways that we want you to know as you come out of the Body Shop of Tomorrow is that repairing aluminum is more than filling out a form, joining a program, and buying some equipment. In the long run, to be good at it and make safe repairs for your customers, it's going to require a lot of training beyond just the equipment. So be sure that as you approach these programs, that you decide what's going to be good for the future of your business, that you're also investing the right dollars in your training. Now we're going to take a tour through the rest of the Body Shop tomorrow. We've got some paint room stuff to get to you. We're going to be showing you some fast track repairs, and we're going to get over to the estimating station. Thanks.